People moving out, people moving in. Why? Because of the color of the skin. Run, run. So I just saw BlacKkKlansman, and it was probably the best theater experience of my life. The movie theater is called Alamo Drafthouse Cinema, and it was just bursting with personality. When I walk down the hallway, I see on the walls these posters of these exploitation B movies from the 1950s and 60s. And then when I get into the theater, instead of on the screen there's like commercials or movie quizzes or whatever they play at Carmike or whatever, they actually play stuff that directly ties into the movie. They play the trailers for these black exploitation films from like the 70s called Coffee and Cleopatra Jones. And then they show the trailer for Spike Lee's movie Do the Right Thing, and then Nike commercials directed by Spike Lee. Spike Lee is the director of this movie, by the way. And on top of that, I have a good lunch. They serve food there, and the food was delicious. And on top of that, the waiter was really friendly. We talked about movies with my grandmother who I was with, and it was just an awesome experience. And on top of that, the movie is really good. The film is about a black police officer who infiltrates the KKK, Ku Klux Klan, by phone, and he calls the leader of this chapter of the Ku Klux Klan, but when it comes for face-to-face meetings, there's a white police officer who impersonates the black police officer and infiltrates the KKK from there. On the film's director, Spike Lee, I wouldn't consider myself a fan of him. I only saw two of his films, Do the Right Thing and Malcolm X. And I mostly just ignored him and his recent work because there was a notable decline in him using either the same formula or in a crappy action direction. But in this case, he seems to be freshly returning to his form. Spike Lee directed this movie wonderfully. Its writing is very witty, and the acting is just very great. I know about half the actors in here, but another half of the actors I don't, and I was really impressed by them. The main guy who plays the black police officer, Ron Stallsworth, is this guy named John David Washington. I think he's a former football player, and I have never seen him in anything before, and he was great in the movie. This film has this bright, vibrant energy that only Spike Lee is capable of doing, but that doesn't mean that it isn't deep. There's a lot of stuff in this film that deals with racial tension and violence, either from the police or from the Ku Klux Klan, even in the government. There's also a scene where Harry Belafonte, who I think was a civil rights leader, talks about this horrifying story about the injustice that was done to a young, mentally slow black man, and how it was made into sort of a sick spectacle. And it was right after this movie called Birth of a Nation came out, which was a movie that sort of put the Ku Klux Klan in a hero spotlight. So that reminded me of not only the dark history of America, but also the dark history of cinema as well, which I was not expecting. From the first scene of the movie, which is basically Alec Baldwin shouting the N-word, to the final image of the American flag upside down and losing its color, and footage from Charlottesville, this film makes you think about the situation you're in, and even though it takes place in the 70s, the struggles that still took place then still take place today. I'm trying to think of flaws, but I can't really think of anything besides nitpicks like, say, half of the lighting in the first scene can be a bit annoying. But that being said, I still think it's a great movie, and I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. I'm done with the lettering system. It's confusing. This is much more effective. BlacKkKlansman is a great movie. Go see it.